Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Microsoft IoT Deep Dive. Today, we are going to deep dive into how IoT is driving sustainability. Now, this is a topic I am extremely passionate about, and I really wanted to bring in a speaker who's just as passionate as I am about this subject. So this is a special deep dive where we get to have a virtual fire chat with the one and only Rodney Clark, who is our Corporate Vice President for IoT and Mixed Reality Sales. Hey, Rodney, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here talking about sustainability with me?
Yeah, hey, Pamela, thanks so much for having me. And you are correct. I am super passionate about sustainability. In the business that I'm responsible for in IoT and mixed reality, we really sit at the heart of this opportunity, which in my opinion is one of the greatest challenges of our lifetime. You know, what is our human response to sustainability?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I get to manage and work with a broad set of people on my team that are focused on it, as well as our broader partner ecosystem to build these solutions is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I love the type of impact that we can have working in the IoT space and sustainability. And something, you know, when I was looking at why I'm passionate about sustainability, I was looking back into my background in hardware engineering, and I was looking into how much of these hardware devices ends up in a landfill. I think they said up to like 20 to 50 million metric tons of e-waste are disposed worldwide every year. And so every time I go to design a board layout, now I think about that. I think about where I'm sourcing my components. I think about, you know, the shipping of those components to me. Yeah. I think about how I'm using these kits in events where I'm teaching kids how to solder and code, and they have this device. But what happens to the device after the event? Does it just sit at someone's table or in their office, or does it get thrown away? So I started thinking about my impact on e-waste, and then what is Microsoft's impact for e-waste? And so one of the things I just noticed is that Microsoft released a Microsoft device sustainability report for this fiscal year. And they talked about how they're driving impact here, how they look into the supply chain, they look into labor rights, they look into how they can make sure when they're building a product with our partners and customers, how they can make sure they're building sustainable devices that can really impact what we're doing. And so seeing Microsoft in this area that I'm super passionate about makes me wonder, what else are we doing in this area? And started to see a bunch of different announcements. And so we have been putting a big focus here when it comes to sustainability. But I was wondering, where did these goals come from? How do we pick all of these things we should focus on? Could you say a little bit about what you've noticed on how we've chose our goals?
Yeah, well, I thought I was passionate about this space. Listening to you walk through that, clearly you are equally as passionate about this space. If I go back and look at where it started for Microsoft, it really, sustainability has been a focus of ours for many, many years. I think we got, probably a bit more focused on it with efforts like AI for Earth, which became a template for AI for Access, which ultimately led to AI for Good. Prior to that, if you go back to about 2015, I believe, all 190 United Nations member states adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And really what this agenda was all about was a blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and into the future. And at the heart, there were these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs as they're known, okay. Which then fell into three main categories of economic, societal, and environmental. And the United Nations was really focused on meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet our sustainability needs. And it was at that time, again, going back to 2015, that companies like Microsoft started to map out their corporate and social responsibility strategies around these SDGs. And Microsoft decided to support the three categories and specifically focus on environmental issues.
So it sounds like we've had a lot of number of, go big announcements. And you just talked about how we're kind of selecting those goals. Can you talk about our commitment to the environmental sustainable development goals, as you said, SDGs? What are the 4 environmental focus areas within those?
Yeah, if I back up a little bit before I get into the 4 areas, which I will, sustainability is just a call for doing better business. If you look at the energy savings, there's over $60 billion that's sitting there in energy optimization. If we look at agriculture value creation, there's over $12 billion through the use of things like drones and water usage and optimizing resources. The carbon market valuation, 82 billion. You look at the economic benefits of sustainability and it gets to 26 trillion. Those are all big numbers. And what we decided as Microsoft to do was to focus on carbon and energy. We decided to focus on water, on waste, and then on ecosystems. And we've made some bold announcements in this space. In carbon, we said we're going to be carbon negative by 2030. We're going to remove all CO2 that we've ever put into the atmosphere since 1975. We're going to do that by 2050. And then we've just announced we're going to be water positive by 2030. So it's investments in innovations around sustainability, in new technologies, in renewable energy projects, and specifically investments in our partner ecosystem that are creating these solutions that will help us meet all of these objectives.
And those are really huge investments. And they're also really ambitious because that's a lot of areas. And I know, Rodney and myself, we're both in the IoT space, and we've been part of this IoT space for a long time now. I'm curious on what is your perspective on what you're seeing, how IoT actually plays a role with this.
Yeah, IoT plays a pretty significant role in this. And when I say IoT, it doesn't necessarily mean a lot to a lot of people, but you think about these devices on the edge that are collecting and generating data and information, and how those are being translated into insights that a company, a city, or an organization may use to help make decisions. Behind IoT are a set of partners who are building their technologies and capabilities on top of ours, on top of our edge technologies and capabilities, on top of our cloud platforms and services. And you take something like smart energy. Smart energy could be something as simple as a smart thermostat inside of a newly constructed smart building, or it could be a smart thermostat inside of a retrofitted building, right? And it's our partners who are building that edge device. It's our partners that are enabling the remote monitoring and maintenance to monitor the health of that device to make sure that it's not using and leveraging the energy in times where it should not. The heat is potentially regulated. It's partners who are building the cloud services and the dashboards so that they can monitor the health of those devices and also regulate energy consumption. So to the consumer, there's a tremendous savings in things like energy bills, but these solutions are also gathering all of this information from sensors and devices, and again, generating these insights. Like that, Pamela, is the essence of IoT.
It really is. It's really the heart of IoT, like you were saying. And, when I'm working with a lot of customers and partners, a lot of the stuff that they're working on, they don't even realize it actually contributes to better sustainability too. But it seems like there's this huge opportunity for both businesses and for the earth where we could drive impact here.
Yeah, you talk about the earth, and I mentioned this in my first response, and our efforts actually started and had beginnings in initiatives like AI for Earth, again, which became a template for ultimately AI for Good. But now we are in deep water. When I say that, no pun intended.
Yeah,
By the way, when I say water and when I mention something like IoT devices, like what's the first thing that pops into your mind?
Let's see. First thing that pops in my mind is probably power outage from flooding. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking of a joke that my friend Sarah came up with where anytime someone talks about IoT devices and water, she says it's perfectly okay if the device is waterproof, right? I don't know. I think the biggest scenario that I've seen is water consumption.
Ah,
Did I
very
hit
nice,
it?
Pamela. I think, by the way, I'm just saying because that's where I go to
Okay,
immediately
perfect. Yeah.
is water consumption and IoT. Now, the interesting thing behind that is water covers over 70% of the Earth's surface. I think we all know that. It's one of the first lessons that we get as we're growing up in school. Well, more than 97% of that water is saline or located in our oceans, and it's not actually fit to drink. And it's not fit for crops. And so
Yeah.
fresh water, if you look around the world, is also not easily and evenly distributed.
Yeah.
So when we get into conversations like water consumption, and we start talking about a city and water consumption, we start talking about quality and safety of water, we start talking about monitoring watersheds. All these are cases where IoT plays a fundamental role in providing insights, that predictive analytics and maintenance, the fact that we can see what's happening on the edge and predict an actual leak or detect the leak.
Yeah.
We've got partners like Wipro that have these connected meters that can actually help detect water leaks. In fact, if we can help with this, and Wipro has built a business on it, it can save as much as a 12% reduction in daily consumption. Now,
Wow.
that is an example of sustainability hiding in plain sight.
Yes, I mean, that's huge. 12% is huge. You mentioned city. I'm thinking of smart city, putting my smart city lens on right now. I can see how this type of management in these areas are going to have a nice return of investments when it comes to efficiency savings, resource management, and when it comes to carbon and sustainability goals. There was a past partner that I worked with that was all about smart buildings and then smart waste removal system within buildings. And so when you think about it, if you have a smart garbage bin sending telemetry that says, hey, I'm not full yet, or hey, I am full, I'm ready to be tended to by a worker, you can actually save a lot of money when you target and just pick those up when the bins are full. You can save on gas, you can save on the worker going to the bin or not going to the bin if it's not full. You can save on the worker hours and making sure that they're more efficient at their job. It's that feedback loop that really allows for that better routing planning and a strategic energy use, less gas. So there seems to be this nice business case there. And then you can also think with those waste recycling bins or anything like that, if it overflows, lots of times you see, I don't know if you're walking down the street, but we're in Seattle right now, and sometimes the trash doesn't get picked up, and you see the kind of trash flowing out. I mean, that's going in our sidewalks. That can go in the rivers. In our case, the ocean soon. And so there's, I'm thinking of all of this kind of return of investment and how this can impact different scenarios, especially environmental ones. What's your perspective about the return of investments with that type of project or any type of projects when it comes to IoT?
Yeah, I wish I had a sensor on my bin every time it didn't get picked up that just rang the city of Seattle Waste Department, like, come and pick up my bin. But those are great scenarios, actually. And you think of smart cities and even practical solutions like dynamic bus routing, when and how we should deploy trains that run on electricity versus buses that run on gas. Simple decisions like whether or not a traffic circle should go in the middle of an intersection or a traffic light, excuse me. See, I'm saying trash. You got me thinking about my trash now, Pamela.
Sorry, Rodney.
Whether or not a traffic light should be there monitoring traffic in each direction and idling with those emissions, or a traffic circle to keep things moving. Solar energy, wind farms to generate power. Cities around the world have been discussing these types of innovations for years. And now they can do so with the thought of saving time and also with a thought on driving sustainability for our cities. The cool part is, I mentioned partners earlier, there are partner solutions that are at the heart of every single one of these. And when you look at things like our catalog, it makes it easier for cities who are looking to deploy solutions like this and have rapid return on investment, which they would potentially calculate as more passengers riding a bus, in addition to something like emissions, right? Emissions reduction. But these are the types of solutions that are now available to us.
Now that makes sense. A smart city really is a sustainable city. Speaking of cities and rivers and waste by preventing spillage in the surrounding ecosystems, this is one area I'm really curious about. What is your thoughts when it comes to ecosystems as one of the 4 sustainability focus areas?
Yeah, ecosystems is an interesting one, and this one is really nuanced. And whenever I get into a conversation around ecosystem, I immediately go into examples around agriculture because I think this is what people can most relate to. Mm-hmm. If you think about IoT throughout the ag supply chain, you know, everything from that John Deere tractor that 25 years ago required a farmer to be inside of it, to drive it and do visual inspection of the fields, using things like sensors in the dirt that tells them when to plow the field, and ultimately automating that tractor so that it basically drives itself and gives the farmer data and information on how to farm that the actual crop. We think about monitoring the health of plants and livestock, the transportation of goods, food, as it leaves the farm and gets to the next part of the overall supply chain. We think about the food waste and the reduction of food waste, one, because of higher yield, because the farmer is now utilizing and leveraging some of the capability of IoT, but it's also a reduction because there are fewer errors in transportation, and things that require temperature control are now monitored via IoT. We have a lot of exciting work in this area being done by our partners and customers, and in the ecosystem, again, although nuance, is really a fun discussion to have.
I love that you mentioned tractors and John Deere. I came from a farming area, so it's really close and dear to my heart. It is crazy to see the innovation that's coming from partners like John Deere and others in the space that, you know, you kind of think, oh, it's a tractor, but now it's got all of the IoT devices in them, you know, making sure that we have better crop yield, which is amazing. And so another project, kind of speaking on the lines of farming and that topic, is I believe is Azure FarmBeats. You know, I really love this platform. I know we've been using it with some students as well. But what's nice about Azure FarmBeats is that, you know, it started off as a passion project from Microsoft Research, and they were just as passionate about this area as well, using devices to better soil management and really getting into how data can be collected in these rural environments with really huge connectivity challenges, because you're in the middle of nowhere. In these cornfields. Have you seen any of this type of work and innovation take hold with some of your partners?
Yeah, by the way, FarmBeats, for those who are not familiar with FarmBeats, it is a cost-effective AI and IoT platform that's based on a Windows heavy compute edge and heavy compute node, as well as our Azure cloud technologies. And it combines low-cost sensors, and I do this, I mean like low-cost sensors, drones, incorporates vision AI, machine learning algorithms to basically map the farms, and again, to help farmers determine when to plant, when to harvest, that ultimately is an increase in yield and is at the heart of sustainability. FarmBeats is super cool, and partners are leveraging FarmBeats and things like it to build adjacent solutions. There's a ripple effect with things like FarmBeats. You have solutions that manage fertilizer and pesticides. You have the ability to save on materials. You have the ability through efforts like that to focus on water quality. And so you take something that is simple as like, hey, you know, how do I yield more crops? And it starts to create opportunities for us to continue to innovate. It even gets us into areas and things like conservation, which I know is a topic that when we're into farming and we're into specific yields and we're into the technology, it's all about those adjacencies that help us in bigger, broader conversations. And so conservation has been one of the topics that has come out of that.
And I love that you mentioned that. I recently joined a project, which you should know about, that you actually incubated. It's called Project 15. It was founded by two of your IoT solution architects, Sarah and Daisuke. And, Sarah approached me right before a company hackathon. Just for folks out there, Microsoft hosts this 1 year hackathon, once a year hackathon, where we get to do anything we want for good. And it's really exciting. We get to work at any type of project for an entire week. But Sarah and Daisuke said, hey, we're going to make something. And I signed up in a heartbeat because I love Sarah. I knew that this was a great project. Anders, one of our colleagues, joined as well. And so this is something where I'm really excited to talk more about as Project 15.
Yeah, Project 15 is so cool. By the way, Sarah is forever on a what if mission. I mean, like her whole existence is all about what if. And I just remember, by the way, Sarah, when this is pre-pandemic, we both sat in Bravern, which is an office building in Bellevue, Washington. And it's called, you're in a fishbowl, you're in the bubble, and I had a glass office, and I'd see Sarah, just kind of strolling by the office every once in a while. And I knew that when she passed by 3 or 4 times that she usually and typically had something good to share with me. And so she came in, and this is who Sarah is. And again, one of her what if missions. But what she shared with me is that we have a commercial solution that we had built that could help scientists. And if she could figure out how to connect all of these threads, that we could come up with a solution to basically drive, in essence, what became Project 15. And so she teamed up with Daisuke on the team, and they put together a plan. And beyond, the great ingenuity, the great thinking, it was also the heart of this concept of growth mindset in action.
Yes.
The fact that, hey, we've got a commercial scenario and it could work, and we all kept our fingers crossed and hoped that it would work. And so through this process, it was basically taking what scientists lacked access to, which was these commercial approaches to these solutions.
And I love that you pointed that out, because one thing that got me really hooked into this project and working with Sarah on this is because she made a mention of these commercial use cases, which we work with every day. But she said, what is the difference between shoplifting a sweater from a store or stealing a penguin from a park? And so there's really not much difference there. And, the many times that we have done IoT solutions, there's a big chunk of it that is very similar. And so it just kind of had a light bulb come out moment. And I was like, I'm on this project. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I love this concept and notion of, there's no difference than shoplifting a sweater or keeping kids safe in school.
Yeah.
Than, poaching an elephant. Again, the commercial application was the same. And so it was that use case that became, the driving force of Project 15. And there was some work where the team put out a web page and a video with the help of our marketing team. And at that point, the exercise was on, and the web page became, somewhat of the brand, or the phone, if you will, that they, they just kind of left it open and hope somebody would pick up on the other end. And ultimately, that's what happened. It's been such a great success that folks like yourself found interest in it, and it created a pathway to hackathon and other.
Yeah, and out of that hackathon, the project that we worked on, it ended up being an open platform, because we did notice that a lot of these solutions that the researchers and their developers were trying to create was very similar to other folks. Like if you're trying to save the red pandas versus trying to save elephants. They were all starting to be very similar. And so we created this open platform where we have 80% of the code is already ready to go for you. And then you can customize your own parts and add to this open platform. And having an open source really opens the doors for students, professionals, anyone to use it without having, 20 years of skills of building IoT solutions, which is really important because, there's only so much grant money. There's only so much time. We're running out of time to get these projects up and running. Are you surprised on how this all have, taken place, and where do you think this will go?
No, I'm never surprised by this team, Edison being kind of the first iteration of Project 15, and Sarah Daisuke and the team were already sitting on some momentum and success, but it was just basically, how do we, again, take this commercial application into a scenario that's near and dear to people's hearts, something like conservation. And the fact that 80% of the code can be reused is exactly the reason why the United Nations called. I made that bad phone analogy earlier. By the way, who uses the phone anymore? I could have used something. I'm in IoT, for goodness sake. I'm still talking about phones. Yeah, they dialed virtually on Teams because they knew that 80% of that code could be reused. But the Small Grants Program is part of the UNDP, and the team has partnered with them to roll out this open platform for their grantee community. And so we're on that same path that we have been on to scale our commercial solutions. We're on the same path to scale this solution as we do our commercial solutions. And so I'm excited to watch and see how this develops over time, and ultimately how our Azure services can transform and scale conservation through this partnership.
Yeah, I am super excited. We're even starting to partner with universities too on pairing up students with these projects and working with the open platform. So there's so much potential in this space to help unblock researchers who are really trying to, impact and move these projects forward, and they can't because they're limited by the tech. So we want to make sure to unblock that for them. So Rodney, thank you so much for taking the time here to talk today about the effect of, what IoT has in driving sustainability. It's been an awesome experience to be able to geek out with you when it comes to sustainability, and really enjoyed having you here.
Thanks, Pamela, for having me. And if I could just two last parting thoughts. Again, sustainability is better for business, and everyone should be focused on sustainability. And IoT is an accelerator and plays a big role in sustainability success. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Rodney. And I'll just end with, sustainability is a core mission here at Microsoft. There's so many people who are passionate here about sustainability and working with our partners and customers and developers out there on moving these areas forward. And so thank you so much for joining. If you're interested in Project 15 and being part of the open platform or even using it yourself, we'll have a link provided on the video, in the description, and on the side, so you'll be able to get access to that. And then we'll also provide in the video description more links on, the sustainability when it comes to devices report and other ways that Microsoft is in the space driving sustainability. So thank you so much, and we enjoy having all of you guys here.